Hi everyone, how are you? My name is Danny. Welcome to Danny's Corner. Today I want to talk about one of the things that frustrates me the most, and that is when people leave notices on my door in print. Um, I live in an apartment just like some, if not most people who, for whatever reason, do not own a house. It happens. And again, one of the things that a lot of people don't think about is that there are blind people who live alone. Yes, it's the minority, but that doesn't mean that that doesn't happen. So, what happens here? Well, obviously, there are blind people who don't have that thing where we have someone with us to help us read whatever paper somebody has put on the door. And so, what can we do? A lot of the technology that we have as blind people is either outdated or just isn't available. In my case, besides being blind, I have CP. That means that even if there was an app, which there are several, because of my CP, it's hard to have a phone and trying to position it in a way to where I can hold it and not to be able to hold it long enough in a certain position and keep it that way. That's hard. And so it's going to be uh, shaking, if that makes any sense. And so, what am I supposed to do? The only way that I can read notices that are left on the door is either via a scanner, which is then hooked to a computer, and or as I said before, having a person read the notice on the door. The first one, which is a scanner, which has an OCR, is quite hard because you never know if some of these notices are handwritten. When they are, the OCR doesn't work as it doesn't recognize handwritten text. And a lot of the apps on the phones don't recognize handwritten text. And besides, a lot of the scanners tend to be bulky and they require updates to software, and a lot of the software is not compatible and it changes all the time too. So every so often there seems to be changes to the software that sometimes is not compatible with the screen reader. And now that even screen readers have subscriptions, you don't even know if that's going to work. And so there's always one problem after another when it comes to that. And so, what is the solution? The solution is simple than you think. Braille is not the solution, just in case you were wondering. Unfortunately, Braille is one of those things that can become more expensive. A sheet of Braille, number one, is expensive just because you have to buy the whole pack of paper. And so, for example, if I'm the only blind person in the building, which I'm not, I'm not sure how many blind people there are in the building where I live, but I'm sure there are more. So let's say there are 10 and there are 1,000 people. Why are you going to buy a stack of paper just to hand out notices to 10 people? It doesn't make any sense. And number two, why are you going to buy a machine that brailles out these notes for you when the machine is expensive? It's just a waste of time, a waste of money. Instead of that, what you can do is, number one, have the office send out someone, knock your door, and say, I've come to tell you this. And just tell us in person whatever you were going to tell us on your note. Does that make any sense? That's one thing. The other thing I think that can be done when it comes to notices is a lot of these residential buildings now have either apps and or web portals where people can go in and log in, and they can view their history when it comes, rent and or past due balances and things like that. And this is where they can view other notices or whatnot. One of the things that they can do is, have some sort of way where the system can somehow send a notification to their phone when something new happens. For example, if you input your email as a person, let's say you want to receive an email or a text every time that something new happens, when you receive a notification about something, you'll receive that. So you go and log into your portal and you'll get that whatever important notification. Does that make any sense? And so that could be a way. And in that way, you could save a lot of money. Do you know how many trees don't have to be cut down? And I don't know. It's just simple. Now, I understand a lot of people, for example, where I live, there's a bunch of senior citizens who may not have a computer. And that's fine if a note is stuck to their door. But again, I'm talking here about blind people who, in fact, have to make use of a computer or a phone and who may or may not read Braille. It's these people who are often left out and people are not thought about. And in fact, I'm bringing this subject because this is what happened to me. A few days ago, there was a notice left on my door and I didn't know what it said. So why am I going to bother people just to ask them, hey, could you read me this note? It was left on my door. There's a lot of people that don't live near me. So what am I going to say? Oh, just read this for me. Doesn't make any sense. So again, it's just frustrating for me to ask for help just when I need something to be read, when it can easily be fixed. And before I knew it, actually somebody did read that somebody had to come over. However, they didn't tell me at what time. So the day came, and before I knew it, I heard somebody inside my apartment. I was in my room. I got out, and I'm not sure if they were startled to see me, but they quickly realized that I was blind, and nobody had bothered to let me know that they were showing up. Do you see where the problem goes? When you can't even give somebody a call and leave a voicemail, at least for as a reminder, we are showing up on this day just to let you know. We left you a note in case you didn't know. The other thing is, after they left, about 2 hours later, they had left another note. Now, it's interesting because they knew already that I was blind. Why would you leave a second note knowing that I am totally blind? It doesn't make any sense. I didn't pay attention to it. How could I? Again, I'm totally blind. So I let it go. They came again. I opened the door. And they said, oh yeah, we came because we wanted to see if you had done certain things. I said, well, I didn't know I was supposed to do certain things. Oh, well, it was written on the notice that we had left you on the door. I said, I'm totally blind. What are you talking about? And again, there's a miscommunication. How are you not going to know that somebody is totally blind? How are you not going to know that somebody is not going to be able to see the note that you stick on the door? Assuming that everyone is sighted, that everyone that rents a house or an apartment is going to be able to see is, I don't know what to call it. I think we should be open-minded and start thinking a different way. That not everybody is sighted. That there's going to come a day when you may lose your sight. You may need help as well. And that we need to change the way that we have been doing business with one another. That, as I said earlier, we don't have to get away from print material, but we should incorporate sending notices via text messages or e-portals or something similar to that. It will not only benefit future generations, but also people with disabilities. But again, who thinks of us? And see, this is what inclusion is about. This is what being woke, as much as people don't like that term, this is what woke actually means. It means to be aware of other people's plight, of other people's problem. However, if you say woke to other people, they only think of three things: gender, orientation, and people of a different skin color. That's it. But it's more than that, as I said. So when we are able to recognize that there are problems that are affecting each and every one of us, and that it can happen to you at one point or another. that you may start losing your sight, that you may start losing your hearing, that you may start losing your mobility, and that you may need help in one of these areas, is when you may start recognizing that there has to be a change. And you too will start to advocate for a change. Not only when it comes to making things accessible for people who live in apartment settings, but also when it comes to work settings and who do the same things, leave notices on doors. But also, for example, people who leave notices in bulletin boards and stuff like that. We need to start again thinking in ways on how to make things accessible for all, not for some. It's about inclusion. How can we make this society inclusive to all people, not for some? And if we only do it for some, for those who are able to see, or for those who are physically abled or able-bodied, as some people like to call you guys, that's not being fair. That's not being equal. And certainly that is not helping us to become a better society. That is still helping us, or that's still keeping us in this period, in this era of backward thinking. It's still keeping us in this era of these people don't know what they're talking about. These people don't know anything. We must change that, right? How are we going to learn anything? How are we going to be able to face our challenges if nobody teaches us, if nobody educates us, if nobody is there to guide us? This is why these things have to be made accessible. With your help, these things can be made accessible, from something simple, as I have said, as posting notes or notices on a door, to making programs, apps accessible to everyone. And that's the other thing that I want to end this video with, where a lot of these web portals and or apps that these buildings are a part of, which again, these are management companies that host these sites, they are not quite accessible to people who have a visual disability. Either the text is too small, or perhaps they have a problem with interacting with the screen reader, or something else is going on. I've had one or two problems with interactions with these type of portals. So then what? Who am I going to turn to when it comes to, hey, I'm having problems with your app or with your internet portal, and therefore not only I don't have access to the information on that paper, but I don't have access to whatever notice, if there is any, on my electronic inbox, if such thing does exist. Because again, the web portal is not accessible. And so the people who keep up with the maintenance of the site are going to say, "What are you talking about? I don't know anything about accessibility for the blind." So then they have to see what they can do to help out. We need to come to a place where we can say enough is enough. Where if you are going to make websites for the general public, you need to include a course or two on how to make these sites accessible for people with disabilities. So, again, there's a whole list of things that have to be done to bring inclusion to everyone, as I have said before, not just to some. It doesn't take money, it takes willingness. I hope you have enjoyed this video. And again, these videos are to not only inform people, but to talk about my experience on what is it like to live with blindness and the frustrations that I face on a day-to-day basis in a society that I think doesn't care about people with disabilities overall. Because if they did, they would make significant changes to better the lives of those of us who have different disabilities. But what do you think? If you have a disability, or if you know somebody with a disability, how do you think our lives can be improved? Or what things can we do as people with disabilities to have or initiate the conversation with people who do not have the disabilities? Thank you very much for listening.